This is the moment when you try to get out of the shit, because if you will remember when we've dismantled this fish tank, we have a bit of a sticky mess on the veranda, so I thought I better not blooming steal the wife's good mop from the house, so I found the old girl from the shed and I found an old mop bucket. So hopefully we can do a bit of cleaning and make something a little bit more respectable. So you'll see my housework and skills. Well, lack of skills probably. Oh, this is probably not traditional beekeeping, but I just thought it'd be good to show you if there's a will, there's a way. You can even have bees even if you haven't got a lot of space. We're going to put a bee box or a flow hive on our veranda. But first of all, I've got to clean up the mess that I made the other day. I think it's safe to say I've made a bit of a mess. But anyway, hopefully we can clean ourselves up. There we go, that's a start anyway. At least we can work out there without getting too many sticky beaks. Right, I think it's time to go and get a bee suit, because I'm not doing this next bit without one on. Okay, don't sting me. Get off. Rightio. That's a big enough adventure without a bee suit. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, I think I've got a mess. But it's less mess. I've left a bit of this stuff here for the ladies to clean up, and I'll take that away later. But for now, what we're going to try and do is get our landing gear organised, because I've discovered along this journey you've got to have somewhere for the girls to land on the opposite side of the bars, because otherwise they've got to try and work their way through there, and there seems to be a lot of catastrophes. I'm assuming if you're in one of these modern apartments and you have a glass veranda or edge, well, you're probably going to have to put your hive above the glass veranda. Otherwise, you know, they're not that clever. Even though they're very clever little creatures, they're not quite that clever. Mind you, you could probably give them a glass cutter. Well, here comes the clean-up squad. I'm not really sure. I hope that's all the ladies that are actually from here, but they could be from anywhere now. But it's amazing how quick they'll clean up the old honeycomb if you leave it out a bit. Now, don't do this if you've got other neighbours with bees, because, you know, you might have a problem. I didn't have any disease, so don't leave your honey laying around for the bees to clean up like this. This is not necessarily recommended, other than the fact that I'm in the middle of nowhere and there isn't any other beekeepers within blooming 5k, so I figure they can just make a good job of it for me. Oh, I had a young lass the other day ask me, does she have to light her smoker when she's working her bees? And I said it's very recommended, especially since she didn't have a bee suit. I thought you were a very brave young lady. The reason you want to light your smoker, of course, is because when you smoke the front of your hive, you're going to disturb the guard bees. Also, you put a bit of smoke under the lid, and that's going to distract everybody that's in the hive. Encourage them to go and get some honey and have a bit of a feed, because they think they're going to have to fly away. So that when they get their tummies full of honey, a bit like us, when we get our tummy full of food, we're ready for a siesta. The ladies just calm down a little bit, and it's all good. I think the other thing that happens is the smoke distracts them from the fact that we're exhaling our carbon dioxide, and they can smell that and consider us a predator. That's only my theory. It seems to work, and I reckon that's why is when you're working hard and you're puffing, they get even more excited. So the smoke serves a lot of purposes, and it's been going on for eons. I mean, back in the day, they used to light a bush and just bloody use that to smoke the bees. So this is not a new concept, other than the fact we've got some bellows on the jolly smoke. Right, so I think the next thing we're going to try, and we're going to do our little landing boards. I'm going to cheat because I've already got some on my original hive, and I'm going to hopefully screw them to the front of the flow hive. I originally had the jolly fish tank up here, and I didn't have these landing bits between the bars, and when they get really busy, that gets a fair bit of carnage for some reason. I guess they hit the bar and then they get distracted, and then, you know, then they have a fight because they get angry, and then there was lots of dead bees. And when I put the landing boards there, they would just seem to appease that whole situation. So I suggest if you're in your veranda, this is a good plan. Give these a little smoke up. I'll just get my screwdriver and take these off. You stupid thing, are you still burning in there? I tell you what, this is all sticky, this jolly thing from yesterday. I think you might have to go and get a wash after this project. Oh, I was just down the supermarket earlier picking up some stuff, and I'm walking around. I ran into a young lass that I know. We're having a conversation, and a bee walks out my shirt and up my neck, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, there's a bee on you." And I said, "Oh, it'll be okay. It's just one of the workforce coming along for a ride." Right. Oh, how are we going to do this job? This is the mad plan I had going on. I figure we might have to actually put the hive close enough before we screw it together, but I don't know how that'll work. You got any good suggestions? Oh shit, not that far. At least it's a little bit lighter than the fish tank. Right, idea is to get it through the bars. We'll push it up a bit further in a minute. Avoid getting too many bee stings, so they're not very happy with us, as you can imagine, and I don't blame them one little bit. I wouldn't be real happy with us either. Oh. It's the temperature gauge to let people know what was going on at the time. Oh shit, how am I going to do that so clever? I can't see with this silly hood. I'm not doing this naked though, that'd be ridiculous. Fuck now, come on. I can't, fuck, maybe I have to go this way. God, this will be fun at the 44th floor, wouldn't it? Oh, come on. Wait, listen, I can't see what I'm doing. Honestly. Right, yeah. One down. Oh, one life left to live. You might be picture children for the flow hive people. Like famous. You'll be the flow hive deck bees.
Oh, they'll be horrified.
Well, that's a possibility too. No, they're pretty cool. Ta-da! Come on, get down there, old man. Oh, Lord, look at that mess. God bless us. God, I'd never get a job as a carpenter. Now we're just going to slide that forward a bit. Not too far. And then we'll line our little box up again. Oh. Beautiful. Look at that. Yeah, okay, now they're upset. Find a bit more smoke, and we're going to put a top box on. And then, in a minute, I'm going to get some honey and some sugar water and give them a bit of a feed since we've disturbed them in the wrong time of year. But even if you do a cutout normally, it's good to feed them up so they can, I don't know, so they don't stress out too much. Well, don't stress out any more than they already have. They probably isn't over friendly, but it is necessary. So here we go. Now, I'm just going to put an ordinary super on top of this actual flow frame box, because what I'm trying to achieve is, because I've just done a cutout, I want to be able to change out those frames down the bottom and eventually put new frames that the girls will breed on and be all happy. And then we'll put the flow frames on top of the, oh well, heck, I don't know, I'll see how it goes. We might even have a double brood box yet, and then I'll put the flow frames on top of that, but that won't happen until spring. It's autumn here in Oz, and the ladies aren't going to fill up the flow frames between now and winter, so I don't want to put them on, but we'll probably have an episode when we do pop them on in the spring. But right now I'm just going to put this extra brood box at the top, and then we're going to figure out giving them a little bit of syrup so they can feel happy and all just settle down, and then hopefully we can get the bloody fish tank off my wife's veranda and clean up my honey sticky mess, and maybe be allowed back in the bed tonight if I'm real lucky. In an ideal universe, you'd probably leave this for a week until everybody calmed down, but the cameraman's here, you're here, so here we go. Hello, babies. What's going on, ladies? Hey, look at you all settled in lovely. Saying thank you, Bush Bee Man. This is so much prettier than a jolly fish tank. I feel much better. I'm in a lovely flow hive now, look. Not that the girls can read. Not that I'm affiliated with Flow Hive on any sort of monetary basis, but they're Australian, I'm Australian, so that makes me affiliated just in that department. So if you're going to get a Flow Hive, please make sure they're actually a proper Australian built Flow Hive, so you can get the good one. This girl's an older model. They've got some newer models with cool legs and little ledges and all this wicked ass shit you get nowadays. My wife's got one of them in the backyard. So anyway, just a shout out to the Flow Hive boys. I don't know, there's some people that give them some crap, but I reckon it's a pretty cool idea if you're just doing some 1 or 2 hives in your backyard beekeeping. I reckon it's pretty brilliant. I reckon the sour grapes might be that I wish I'd invented it, because I could have made some money. But anyway, I didn't and they did, and you should enjoy it. So we'll just pop that up there. Don't bang too much, MJ. Come on. Little bit gentle. Home on the range, where the bees and the antelope play. I don't think that's actually how the song goes. But anyway, I like my bees, so I'm going to put them in the song. Lucky last one. Now all I've got to do, you just go for a bit of a rummage and see if I can find myself an 8-frame feeder, because most of the boxes I run are 10-frame, so hopefully I can find the 8-frame feeder I've got in the shed that the Ciracell boys sent me, and we'll find out whether we'll give them some food. We've got our Ciracell top bar feeder. Well, it's not a top bar feeder, it's a top of the hive feeder, so that'll save a bit of excitement. The theory is that you'll be able to feed them and not have to disturb anybody, so we'll see how that goes. I was just saying to young John before we put the camera back on, the one good thing about beekeeping on your wife's veranda, if it rains, you can still keep going, because it's pissing down here in a minute. And look at us, we're out beekeeping in the rain. How good's that? The most exciting part about feeding bees, of course, is the little ladies know how to drown in the jolly sugar syrup or the honey syrup or whatever else you decide to feed them. Well, I shouldn't say whatever else you decide to feed them. You can only feed them sugar or dissolved honey. And so they'll actually get drowned in here, and then so if you have a bucket, sometimes they do some open feeding and you have some carnage, and it's not ideal. So the plan is that they can run up the back of this, and then you have this little cover in each corner, and then they run down and they can they're drinking they're inside there, but they don't have to go all the way down and get drowned. Same principle in the middle. So the water's up, hit the syrup's up the top here, the girls run up the inside, and then they just go down to the level where the syrup is, and then eventually they suck it all dry. Thing that always fascinates me when you're feeding bees is how jolly quick they can drink it when they're into it. It's amazing. Like that little tray, depending on how strong your hive is, they'll hook through that in like 3 or 4 days. It's amazing. So then when you're feeding your bees, you just got to monitor a little bit what's going on. Obviously, you don't want to be feeding them so that they're storing it where the honey is. So you've got to make sure you haven't got your honey super on, or that they're they're not storing sugar syrup where you want to harvest your honey. That's a very silly idea. It's not going to give you the result you're looking for. Anyway, we're going to pop our lid off, pop our feeder in, pour a little bit of sugar syrup on there. Hope the lid fits back on top of this lid. It's the next excitement we're about to find out. If not, we'll have to go and find a lid that isn't a Flow Hive lid. Hey ladies, everybody stay calm. It's only the bush bee man. It's only a time for some food. Hopefully they know it's way up here. Is that way too far away? They'll figure it out, won't they? We'll find out in a minute. A little bit of yumminess. Try not to make too much of a mess when you do this. That looks pretty good to me. I'm not going to make it all. It's not all going to fit in there, is it? Because it's on a bit of an angle, because it's got back there for the flowing bit. It's interesting how every time you do something new, there's another thing to discover, isn't it? Because normally that'll fit in there, but because it's on a bit of an angle. Anyway, we don't want to spill it on the ground. Zip this back up here. It's sealed at least anyway, so no one's going to get in there. And there we go. Look at that. And there you have it, a Flow Hive on your veranda. And even if you're 44 stories up, I think you could get away with this, mind you. I'm not sure, you might have to issue your bees with a parachute if you're too high. And as it usually goes at the end of this, everybody's video is don't forget to click like, subscribe, and goodness knows whatever else you can do to share the love of beekeeping in the natural environment. We appreciate your help, and a big shout out to all the people that are Patreon supporters and other supporting, sending us a bits and dribs and drabs of money to keep us afloat. I tell you what, all my love goes out to you, and I hope you're enjoying the show, and keep on buzzing.